Hey, welcome back to IRISHWATERDOGSFishing.com. I'm Blake Belts. I'm going to show you some of the soft plastic baits that I like to use fishing the flats for redfish, trout, and flounder up here in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a big fan of DOA Cal baits and DOA soft plastics in general. This is their Cal in golden bream color. In a prior skit, I showed you guys how I like to rig this on a DOA jig head, and I rig most of these baits on the same jig head. So I'm not going to go through how I rig it. I'm just going to show you what I like to use here. So there's DOA Cals. You have your Fish Bite Extreme Release Scent paddle tails. These are flounder killers right here. I like white colors. Anything natural I usually tend to stick with. This provides a little scent, kind of like a gulp kind of like a gulp, where it disperses scent. Also, you have the action of the paddle tail. Let me pull one of these out so you guys can see it. So basically, it looks like the DOA Cal paddle tail. It just has scent built in, and it releases in the water. So, you know, if you're not catching them on the Cal, maybe you could try a paddle tail or a Fish Bites paddle tail. You may have a little bit more luck, but I like the white color in these. So next we went through some paddle tails. Next I'm going to show you some jerk baits, and what these are, they just mimic a minnow. They don't have the paddle tail, they have a split tail, and this is a smoother bait through the water. It glides more than the gliding action is what really attracts the fish with this bait. And I'll use the same DOA Cal jig head with this bait, or I'll use some type of jerk bait or swim bait hook. These right here are Ultra Point mustads. I'm going to show you how I rig these on the jerk bait. So I showed you how to rig the paddle tail with the DOA jig head. I'm going to show you how I put the swim bait hook on this jerk bait here. So you want to take the post of this hook here, and you want to put it in the center of the bait and line it up and poke it right through the head of that jerk bait. So you want to make sure it's centered and lined up so it swims right. And then you want to feed this hook through the back of this bait and poke it through so it's nice and lined up and center. See that? So what this bait does is it glides through the water. This weight right here will give it enough weight to bounce it along the bottom if you want. Also, it's fairly weedless because that hook is buried within the bait. So that's how I rig a jerk bait. I'll also rig this with the DOA jig head as well, or another jig head. And you know, if you don't have DOAs, I think any jig head works pretty well with these. I like to use a lighter jig head, 1/16 or 1/8 ounce with these. So here's a few colors I like to use. White's always a good bait for me. You have your root beer. These are root beer with the chartreuse tail. And then another bait I like to use. This isn't necessarily a jerk bait. It's kind of an odd bait. It's called the Exude Dart. And what this is, it kind of does the same thing. It bounces along the bottom. Kind of looks like a mud minnow to me. And I usually use these with jig heads. Sometimes I'll use the Ultra Point hooks on these as well. But that's a pretty killer bait. Not a lot of guys use those. I know a lot of guys in Tampa that like to use these in the gold color. But here in Northeast Florida, I tend to like the darker colors. So it's a good bait. There's plenty of colors to choose from with both the paddle tails and the jerk baits. You just gotta get out there and fish them, see what colors are working best for you. Get some good colors in your inventory that you like to use, you're confident with. Get out on the water and practice with them. Once you get your colors, you get the confidence built up, then you'll have some of the go-to colors available in your box that you like to use.